Good Monday morning. I hope you had a great weekend. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. Today is Monday. It's the 24th of November, and you found us here on the weather desk, and we've got a really packed show for you again today. It seems like we do almost every morning. So many different stories to talk about when you consider we tackle today's top weather headlines each and every weekday morning starting at 9 o'clock. And we look not only locally, but nationally, internationally, and sometimes beyond that. So what are the big headlines today? Well, there's more rough weather out on the West Coast, talking about more rain, and unfortunately a fatality. We'll explain that, weather related. And then some good news for some of the mountain resorts, still loving that snow. We've got some snow-capped mountains to talk about. One pretty close to LA, another one, we're going to take you to Nevada and show you some real pretty video and just the images out of that area. So nice. Now, as we take a look, we've got some other international issues that we do want to talk about. We're talking more flooding in places like Vietnam and Thailand. It's been really rough. Albania, really tough. A lot of soaking rain and flooding rain, too much for parts of the world. And we have more on Cuba's Melissa recovery. Here we are, a little bit right around a month or so ago that Melissa made landfall. And some folks here in Cuba still struggling to recover. Some areas is still trying to get power back. So it's been a really tough go for folks here. Obviously, Jamaica, parts of Jamaica absolutely devastated. But there are folks in Cuba that are really struggling as well. So we've got an update on that. And then a really interesting story. We have had no reports of any injuries or any fatalities. But in Ethiopia, there has been this volcano that has been dormant for a long time. Over 10,000 years, this thing has just sat there quiet. And we had an eruption. We're going to show you the satellite images. We'll give you a couple peeks at what was going on. It's done right now, but it is something that is interesting that we will share with you. And when you see that plume from our satellite loops, I think it's just so cool to check that out. Then we've got your Thanksgiving and travel forecast. So a lot to talk about as we get through this short work week and head towards the long holiday weekend. So many folks able to spend time, hopefully you can, with some friends and family wherever you celebrate Thanksgiving. We're going to start off, though, with the rough weather out on the West Coast. And again, you think about what California's been dealing with. They had all the wildfires. Then we had these just really what we keep terming as atmospheric rivers, but streams of moisture coming in from the ocean into California, producing copious amounts of rain. Northern and central portions of California that were in drought before, those are all good now. They've had more than enough rain. Parts of Southern California still abnormally dry, still some areas with some drought, but they've had rain falling over areas that have been burned and from the wildfires, and that creates a whole nother bunch of issues with lots of runoff, sometimes some landslides and other issues. So we'll take a look at LA and zoom in here. You can see right now, as we focus on this area, California is drying out. Things are looking better this morning. You don't see any rain rolling into this area. I've got the satellite and radar images here. So they're finally drying out after getting soaked with the rain over the weekend. Let's take a look at the aftermath near Altadena, one of the areas devastated by wildfires earlier this year. Anytime the burn scar areas get lots of rain, we have big threats and concerns about mudslides, and that has been the big concern. About 30 minutes away, sadly, one person died after strong winds brought down a large tree in the San Fernando Valley. That tree fell on two cars, but only one of them was occupied. There were no other injuries reported. Now, we take a look here, and again, it's been mostly rain that we've been focused on with the storms over the weekend, things drying out this morning, but it wasn't just rain. You take a look at this. We're going to take you to Wrightwood Mountain, and Wrightwood at that mountain high resort, it's about an hour and a half away from LA. They got the snow and they were happy just in time for the ski resorts to open for the winter season. The residents say they haven't seen snow come this early in a while.
I think it's been like 3 years since we've actually had snow on Thanksgiving and Christmas. So having it now, it kind of brings it like makes it all real again. It's not just another day. They all have all their gear ready and their passes ready, and they want to get there way before it opens.
All right, as we mentioned, Mountain High is the closest winter resort to Southern California and LA and San Diego. A lot of folks head out there. You're looking at these satellite images, and this area right here that kind of shows up real bright there for a while, those are the infrared satellites. And just to share with you a little bit about what you're looking with these graphics, we have the radar, and that's a composite radar. You see the snow there over the mountains. We have infrared satellite images, but we also have visible. And you only see the mountaintops, the snow-covered mountaintops during the daylight time. Obviously, you need the sun up to see anything with the visible satellites. But even though, you know, the skies had cleared here after the snow ended, once that sun comes up, yesterday you could see the snow covering the mountains there at Wrightwood and areas just out of the south. So obviously a lot of folks very excited about that. Now we're going to jump over to the east and take you to Mount Charleston, just a little farther east here. Nevada also got their wintry weather, and check this out. Okay, this is Mount Charleston, just off to the west-northwest of Las Vegas. They got more than 2 feet of snow. You can see the families out there enjoying the winter wonderland. So beautiful to see. Believe it or not, this isn't the first round of snow that area has seen so far this fall. Lee Canyon got 6 inches of snow in mid-October. That resort opens for the ski and snowboard season on Friday. So you get out there Black Friday out in the mountains. They're opening up the ski resorts, and they are loving it. And again, with the visible satellite pictures, once that sun comes up, you get that high sun angle, you're going to see the snow over Mount Charleston. Here you go through the afternoon. Once the sky is clear, you'll get that. Let's see. And right in there. There it is. Okay, I was waiting for that loop to get to the right point. That's a look at the snow there in Mount Charleston. All right, we're going to take you overseas now and go all the way over to Vietnam. And, you know, we've reported several times from here on the weather desk about tremendous amounts of rain. And specifically, it's the central part of Vietnam that is now cleaning up after seeing some of its worst flooding in decades. We now know more than 90 people have died, and it caused nearly $500 million in damage. The rain began last weekend, triggering flooding and landslides on a 500-mile stretch. More than 200,000 homes have been damaged. That flooding also submerged coffee farms and brought transportation to a halt in dozens of communities, since landslides are now blocking several key highways. So tough to think about what they are dealing with there. And again, this is a long stretch of land that's been impacted by heavy rain, and it's just been going on at various points over the summer and now into the fall. As we take a look back over towards Thailand, we need to talk about this area also getting a record amount of rain. This is a look at conditions in the southern part of the country over the weekend. You can see people wading through waist-high water as some provinces got more than 15 inches of rain. Forecasters there expect water levels to rise even further as the rain will continue through tomorrow off and on. Fortunately, there have been no deaths reported, and that's amazing when you see that level of water. Now, sadly, that's not the case over in Albania. We'll zip over here and you can see Albania. This is also dealing with flooding, and first responders say a 75-year-old woman was swept away by strong currents following days of torrential rain in the southeastern part of the country. Her son had reported her missing, and her body was recovered after water levels finally started to recede. Very tough situations again overseas, and that's one of the things we do here at the Weather Desk. Not only in the United States, but international weather stories. We like to make sure our viewers here know what else is going on around the world. Down in Cuba, it's been almost 1 month since Hurricane Melissa slammed several islands there. Of course, it started with Jamaica, then it was eastern Cuba, with Melissa moving right over. That system made landfall as a Category 5 in Jamaica. We've talked a lot about that before going on to hit Cuba as a slightly weaker but still major hurricane, Category 3, when it hit Cuba. This morning, thousands of Cubans remain without power, without water, or proper shelter. The United Nations reports that more than 53,000 residents have been unable to return to their homes after the storm, including nearly 8,000 who are living in shelters and tents. The UN has allocated more than $74 million in recovery efforts, with that money going towards housing, health, and sanitation. All right, so that's what's happening there in Cuba. Again, we are almost done with the hurricane season, just 6 more days, so a little less than a week. And right now, I am happy to report the Gulf, the Caribbean, the eastern seaboard here along the U.S., all very quiet, nothing going on across the rest of the basin or in the eastern Pacific, and nothing expected for the remainder of the hurricane season. So all good news there. All right, that's a look at our tropics. Right now, I want to take you back over to Ethiopia and the northern part of Ethiopia right here. This is new information, satellite images showing ash spewing from a long dormant volcano. Look at those images. How cool is that? This is the rising cloud from Haley Gubi, which hasn't reported any activity in over 10,000 years. I'd seen estimates 10 to 12,000 years. That eruption started Sunday morning, and it really didn't last very long. And that ash cloud has moved away from Ethiopia, and it is now over southern India. It's really kind of dispersed as all that ash had time to move. Take a look at the satellite loop here, and I wanted to show this. You can see as we focus on this area, we'll zoom in a little bit here, and this is the plume of ash. One more time, it'll loop back around and you'll see that. And I can actually put the volcano on here so you can see the location. Watch that plume. Did you see that? That was it right there. So the volcanic plume, and this is just a loop that kind of comes up. You'll see it with the visible satellite pictures because, again, with infrared, that's obviously a warm ash plume. It's not going to show up in infrared, which just looks for colder cloud tops. So we have to wait for the sun to come up. And with the sun up, you see that plume had already been out there. We'll show you one more time. And again, this is Haley Gubi, that volcano in Ethiopia. Really wild stuff. And again, we haven't had any reports of any injuries or fatalities. It was an ash plume that came up out of that area. Really something to see. All right, we're going to take a short break, and coming up after the break, I've got your Thanksgiving travel forecast. We'll talk about conditions across the Mid-Atlantic region and the nation. So if you're traveling to New York, or maybe you're going to be going down to Florida, maybe you've got family or friends that are going to be traveling from the Midwest or out along the West Coast, we've got all of your travel covered for Wednesday and Thursday, the Thanksgiving Outlook. And speaking of Thanksgiving, how about the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade? One of my colleagues, Hunter Force, takes a look at climatology and the parade weather history. That's coming up after the break. Good morning and welcome back. We appreciate you catching us here at the Weather Desk. As we sit on this Monday at 9:18 in the morning, we are counting down the days. Just 3 more days until Thanksgiving, and it's time to talk about travel. This is such a busy time for travel. AAA tells us this will be the busiest travel day. Wednesday afternoon especially going to be very busy across the country. And here in the Mid-Atlantic, we do have chances for showers on Wednesday. I expect the wet weather Wednesday morning. By afternoon, a lot of it will be winding down, but there'll still be some scattered showers. If you're headed up to D.C. or out towards Charlottesville, be prepared for some wet weather there. Some wet weather out around Asheville and Knoxville. Lexington looking wet. Down towards Charlotte, still some clouds. Raleigh and New Bern also expecting that. Now, I told you here on the Weather Desk, we don't just focus on what's happening right here in Hampton Roads and around Virginia Beach, Northeast North Carolina, Norfolk. We also look at other parts of the country. So for the Northeast U.S., Boston, New York City, temperatures pretty close to 60. Some rain there, a little unsettled around Cleveland. We're going to see nice conditions for Atlanta, 67, looking good in New Orleans. Central U.S., windy around Chicago and pretty blustery at that, 35 the temperature there on Wednesday. If you're traveling to Omaha, it's going to be chilly. You better take that heavier coat with you. Looking pretty good around Little Rock, Oklahoma City, Dallas, Houston, all good. St. Louis, 45 and partly cloudy. We'll see nice conditions for the southwest U.S. Little unsettled parts of Oregon back into Idaho and Montana. Could see some areas with some light snow. Billings expecting 40 and cloudy. Salt Lake 53 and 48 in Denver. How about Thanksgiving Day specifically? Again, across the region, you'll notice much cooler but more sunshine. Skies partly to mostly sunny for your Thanksgiving Day. Down to the south, plenty of sunshine. Raleigh to Charlotte, Asheville looking good. New Bern, Hatteras all good in the mid-50s there. Cooler out around Lexington and up towards Charleston. Travel situation on Thursday. Temperatures will top out near 71 in Orlando. This is Thanksgiving Day. Maybe some lake effect snow showers coming off around Cleveland. New York City, 44. We're going to talk more about Macy's and the parade coming up in just a moment. But right now, looking pretty good for your Thanksgiving Day. Little cool up in New York City, but at least it's going to be dry, and I think folks there with the parade are happy to know that. Temperatures in the mid-50s for Little Rock, Oklahoma City, 60 at Dallas, a little warmer at Houston. How about Minneapolis, 29 and partly cloudy. Chilly there, Chicago, 32. If you're going there, you definitely need that heavier coat. Billings, 37, 56 in Salt Lake. Temperatures in the 60s and 70s for California, and you can see Seattle at about 52 degrees. Here in Hampton Roads, we're looking at temperatures in the low 50s as well for our Thanksgiving. Mostly sunny, cool, but nice. Now, as we take a look at this forecast, we're going to talk to you about something, I guess, a big tradition, of course, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And one of my colleagues, Hunter Forth, took a look at what's going on with the history of the Macy's Day Parade, and he takes a look. This is now the 99th year. 2025 marks that year, and again, it's such a tradition. He takes a look back now, Hunter does, at the highs and the lows of the event.
Every year, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade brings massive crowds to New York City. And over the decades, the weather has delivered some unforgettable moments. Let's start with the warmest parade on record. Back in 1933, temperatures soared to 69 degrees, so warm that spectators were peeling off layers and giant balloons floated above sun-soaked streets with not a snowflake in sight. On the flip side, the coldest parade came back in 2018, when the morning temperature crashed to a brutal 17 degrees. Light pre-dawn flurries fell through the air, dusting the barricades and making the icy winds feel even sharper as balloon handlers battled the chill. And speaking of snow, the snowiest parade ever was back in 1989, when 4.4 inches of snow had fallen just before noon. But the wind can also be a major factor for the parade. Back in 1997, winds gusted to 40 miles per hour, making it difficult to fly the balloons. The Barney and Pink Panther balloons were stabbed and stomped on by police in order to deflate them. Also that year, the Cat in the Hat balloon slammed a light pole so hard that debris hit a spectator, leaving the woman in a coma for 24 days after she was hit. But the parade has never been canceled because of bad weather. The only time it's been skipped was for 3 years during World War II. For 13 News Now, I'm meteorologist Hunter Forst.
Well, some great information there, Hunter. I didn't realize they've never had to cancel it due to the weather. I know they have had to modify it a little bit. Again, those winds always a big concern with the balloons, as Hunter mentioned, but really interesting stuff. All right now we have light winds. This is great parade weather here in Hampton Roads. Skies are mainly clear. Looking at the Thompson Creek Window Company sky view, we'll check things out at the airport. 53 degrees, northwest winds at 6 miles per hour. Out on the water today, things pretty chill. We'll see the winds maybe relaxing a little bit. It's been, kind of in that 10 to 15 knot range out on the bay this morning. They should ease to about 5 knots this afternoon. Out on the ocean waters, we've seen a few gusts, 15 to 20 knots. But again, the trend will be for lighter winds later today. High tide at 11:20, a low tide just before 6. That's for Hampton Roads at Norfolk at Sewell's Point. Temperatures today into the upper 50s. We are going to enjoy the sunshine today. A lot of it. We've been talking about it. Very straightforward forecast. High pressure in control. We've got a storm system out to the west. This is going to work eastward. And you can see with the satellite images how it's working across Arkansas. Some heavier activity down into Texas. Let's take the graphics full here. And I want to zoom in and take a little closer look at this. And some of these storms, you might be wondering, do they have to worry about severe weather? Well, you take a look at the severe weather outlook, and it's the southern part of the U.S. right along the Gulf Coast down there from East Texas through Louisiana and Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi. You see that. Some of the other areas back through Hattiesburg and areas just off through Meridian. You come back down to the west and around the Houston area up through Buffalo and some of the different areas, Shreveport, obviously, Monroe, Louisiana, all under that level 2 threat for severe weather. Now, what types of threats are we talking about? There is this elevated threat for tornadoes. So we're going to need to be mindful of that. East Texas through Louisiana and Mississippi all have that second elevated level there with a tornado potential. In addition, winds will be a concern, and the hail outlook a little bit greater when you look at the western side of that outlooked area. As far as excessive rainfall, there could be that as well. You can see the level 2 threat there, eastern Texas back through Arkansas into portions of Mississippi and obviously northern Louisiana. For tomorrow, that flood threat slides eastward a little bit. For Tuesday, we could see some more excessive rainfall, just a level 1 threat up into the mountains. As far as the severe weather potential, it's a level 1 threat from western portions of Tennessee down through central Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi back to Louisiana. So the severe weather threat not as great for tomorrow, but it is something we'll keep an eye to. There's still that level 1, that first tier of elevated tornadic threat, and then again wind and maybe a little bit of hail. But as we check out the hail potential, it's not quite as great, and it's really confined to the northwest corner of Georgia, all of Alabama, and then much of Mississippi into Louisiana. So that's a look ahead. Now, as we take a look at our area here in Hampton Roads, plenty of sunshine, as I mentioned. We can take a look at the radar and zoom in here to our immediate viewing area. The temperatures are going to warm into the upper 50s, and really that's about it. You can see upper 50s back to the west there. Generally around 57, 58 degrees. We should spike this afternoon in the low 60s for some of those inland areas. Now, as we go through the overnight, skies still mainly clear, but clouds becoming partly cloudy by sunrise tomorrow, and clouds will increase later in the day. We're going to look for some wet weather late afternoon and into the evening. You see this line here kind of approaching, but weakening as it comes through. A few stray showers possible Tuesday evening. Wednesday morning, better chances for scattered wet weather across the area. Peninsula, Middle Peninsula, Northern Neck, if you're traveling to Richmond or up towards D.C. and getting a jump out there early on Wednesday, we do have the concerns, so we're going to be watching those wet conditions for you on daybreak early Wednesday. Later Wednesday, still some scattered showers, but eventually as we go through the afternoon, we'll start to see some clearing out to the west. Still a few stray showers will be possible, so we'll continue to monitor all of that. Here's a look at our highs, and let's take a look at this. Again, we can take this full so you get a good look at all of the different areas. 58 around Virginia Beach, and you can see 58 for the downtown Norfolk area over towards the airport. Low 60s for our inland spots, Chesapeake, Suffolk, and Franklin. Up on the peninsula, upper 50s, Hampton and Newport News, 61 at Williamsburg. And we're going to find our conditions a little bit cooler over to the eastern shore. At the Outer Banks, upper 50s to near 60. We'll see low to mid 60s farther inland. So we'll continue to watch all this. Looks like a good day today, mainly clear tonight with clouds increasing towards sunrise. And then tomorrow, 67, clouds roll in and we will see the possibility of some showers late. Now, I mentioned the better chances for rain coming up on Wednesday. Rain is going to be likely there, especially in the morning through midday. As we go late in the day and into the evening, things will start to break up. We should see some clearing. Skies will become mostly sunny for our Thanksgiving for Friday and Saturday. Much cooler, highs in the upper 40s. So it will be chilly there, back up to 59 by Sunday. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. Want to let you know we're back here each and every weekday morning right at 9 here on 13 News Now Plus and on YouTube. You have a great day. We'll see you next time.